The glue is set up on this. It's been set up for, I think, 2 days. And what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to sand it smooth and putty any voids or any misaligned seams that I have. Everything looks really good. It's going to be minimal puttying. This seems to have a high spot in it right here. See that little right there? But if I push on that, it goes flat. I could try to do it with some heat, but I think if I just sand it just ever so slightly, I could get that to go away and it won't be noticeable. So I'm just going to do this and fast forward without talking because it's just sanding and puttying. We'll try to see if we keep this video under 15 minutes. So here we go. Okay, okay. It's kind of cold out here in the garage today. The putty I put on here, probably about 80-90% of it is going to be sanded off. It's just a thin smeared coat, so I make sure I blend my seam really nice. Cool thing about the model is it's all faceted. There's no big strange contours you have to follow, so you get to use a flat and just take it forward. You just have to be careful not to round off the facets, because that would be changing the model. That's not good. Anyway, I'm going to let this sit for about 10 to 12 hours and sand it. Most likely I'm going to put a light coat of primer on it to see if there's any flaws that I've missed. And that would bring us probably to the end of working with this. Oh, I wanted to do that thing with the wheels, so I'm gonna get all those parts and come back and take a look at the wheels. Also, these parts, I picked out some pulls that had more air bubbles than you would normally get. I'd consider them bad runs, but I know I can repair them, so that's why I'm using that. I have enough parts for probably 4 kits sitting on the shelf, depending on if interest in this kit takes off or anything. But I know I'm going to be building one and as a museum piece, and another guy at work wants one. So there you go. I'm going to get the wheels together. I want to see this thing rotating. What we're going to do now is I'm going to rough these areas up, these air bubbles up. If you ever get a model that, well, you should never get a model that has anything like this in it, but if you do, what I do is I just come in here and rough this up. I'm using a ball cutter, tiny little ball cutter. I don't know if you can really see that. I'm going to try pulling it all the way into the camera. I don't know if I can get it to focus on me or not. God, I'm so bad at this. Yeah, you can kind of see it's a little tiny ball cutter. But what I'm doing is just taking off the shininess and gouging it so the epoxy putty will have something to bite into. Now this is just, I guess it's milliput is the best way to describe it. It's the same stuff that you would, might need some more than that. I'm kind of gauging this in terms of how much do I have to put into in the model. Seems like this should be close, but better be safe than sorry. It takes, I think, 8 hours for this to set up. Also, when you're handling epoxy putties, use rubber gloves. It's worth the cost. People develop a sensitivity to it. How I never have is beyond me, because I've been working with epoxy for my entire career. When I started in my teens, and now I'm in my 50s. I know guys that just totally break out in hives when they use this stuff. I just make 2 balls and make sure they're the same size. You know, you can use a gram scale if you want to do it that way. But this stuff's pretty lenient. I mean, there it is. So So I'm just going to mix these together really good in the camera. Get used to working in the camera. And these are the Harbor Freight gloves, if you're curious. I think it's like $5 a box and well worth it. These can handle most any paints. I think you need the black ones if you're handling oils. But I have yet to have these things break down, you know, even pulling things out of alcohol baths from the 3D printers. I'm just making sure that's a uniform consistency. You got a bunch of working time with this stuff, so I'm just going to stuff it in the holes. And it looks like it definitely mixed too much. Let me do that. Should rename this series the Ham-Fisted Modeler. Because I am definitely not the neatest putty guy there is. What I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I've squished it into every cranny that's in the cavities. And this stuff's kind of neat because you get to mold it. And we'll come back and obviously we could finish it with spot putty or the Tamiya filler if we're running a negative space. I'm just going to take this mag X-Acto knife and carve that off. Alright, I'm playing with this too much. Time to knock off. Because I have electronics to do tonight. Not for this project, for another one. Visual effects shot and electronics. There we go. Well, guess I forgot to turn the camera on. I never even checked it. I was too busy sanding the putty off my model here. The only thing I'm a little disappointed in is, even though it's really thin putty, but that was my blend edge for the back. I think it's more of a resin issue than any sort of mold issue because the master matched perfectly. But and it's all the same type of silicone from the same batch of silicone for the mold. But this came out really nice and straight, and it's all nice and perfect. But just a little more putty than I thought, and but that's what model building is. You're just making it look good. I had to put this seam showed up a little bit more, so I added a little bit more putty to it. I'm going to take that off now. And this is just a sanding stick equivalent to probably like a 320. sandpaper. I like using these because I won't round off corners if I'm sanding like this. So you kind of see how much putty is left when I'm done here. So that's it. A little bit of a divot over here for some reason, but now it's taken care of and all the seams are filled. So at least I didn't get a coat of primer on there, so you could actually see this thing sanded. This area I have to be very careful with because there is a raised lip that goes around. It's a very thin one, probably about 20 to 30 thou. It's the clamp they used, well, on the real car. That was what was clamping the neoprene flexible section in the center, and that's what it's represented. I decided to put it on the hard part rather than the middle, or the back part rather than the be part of the. I'm having a hard time talking. Part of the flexible middle section. So you can see I've applied a spot putty over the epoxy putty on this. So this part will be all ready to go. You know, so sometimes you can save a part. And then, so now I didn't have to cast up another one. Yeah, this is. This is all very nice. I can come back here really tiny and just make sure I don't get that edge. Yep. All that cleaned up very nice. So I'm quite happy with this. Once it's primed, I'll probably see flaws in it. This is a 400 sandpaper that I have in my hand. I'm going to use 300 on this part, and I have to do this without a sanding block because it's all concave and contoured. I'm just going to do my little circular motions here. The putty obviously breaks down really fast. Kind of hard to see because I'm sanding gray putty off of a gray piece. And again, any imperfections will show when I prime it. know, and I got my steel pins here today, so I'm going to use my steel pins for alignment purposes. Sometimes soft material just is too hard to work with. Put some stubbies in. And I'm just randomly putting these in, obviously. 4 should be more than enough. I need to drill my holes a little deeper. But it lines up. That looks right. That hole just is not deep. Fine. There it goes. Okay, well, I'm going to put this off to the side and see. I'm going to start working on the front cabin, which should be fun.